That's why the clock keeps ticking. Now, yesterday I sent Craig a story from the WWE CEO who appeared on the Sports Business Journal podcast with John Arand and also Andrew Marchand. And Nick Khan, who's really pretty darn good at what he does, said this in the podcast in reference to the Pac-12. This is only his suggestion and opinion, but it's about something, of course, we've talked about dating back to when Texas and Oklahoma bolted for even the SEC. They're in a tough spot, caught off guard by the Big 12. His advice, do a short-term deal, regroup, be careful of an all-streaming deal and what it does to the relevancy of the school/conference for the Pac-12. This can't just be a money grab. And I think what he means by that is stop worrying about what number you get to. Just get to a place where everybody's comfortable to keep your conference together, make everybody happy, and move on. But there is that thought, and maybe even just from us, I doubt it. My God, 31.7. But that was from Nick Khan and the WWE.
Well, I don't think it's just from us. I mean, every time they're asked.
I'm kidding about
No, but I mean, like, when they talk about the number, like, every time the Big 12 is asked, like, oh, it'll definitely be a better number than the Big 12. Okay, that's fine. I'm glad you won that little measuring contest there. But in the end of it, if the Big 12 has a smaller number and better distribution, isn't that more money coming in?
This is going to be
other
avenues. This is going to be like politics. Everyone's going to build their own story of what they think is better.
But yeah, so like if you have more, if your flat number is so, it's going to be better than the Big 12. So the Big 12's at 31.7 and you're at 36.5. And you beat the Big 12, but most of your deal is streaming and it's not distributed, then doesn't that hurt your ability to make money in other avenues? And if you've given all your rights over to, say, Apple, then you maybe have less opportunity to create some other things outside of that. So, yeah, like maybe the Big 12 made a lesser deal for money and you beat them on the number per year. You're also going to have less teams than they are, so you should maybe get more average per school based on that. But all that being said, like, just trying to get to, that's what I keep hearing that, like, it's definitely going to be better than the Big 12 deal. And I mean, why does it have to be?
It's kind of like a turf war. Here's the line in the sand. And maybe that's also been something because of a lot of the stories written, columnist or whatever, no matter who is writing the stories in college football and athletics.
I mean, guys, it's pretty simple why that is. I mean, the Pac-12 side of folks think that they've been disparaged and ganged up on and blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, to hear that their conference is crumbling on Twitter, which I don't know why we give that so much power. Like, we act as though it's, SportsCenter anchor live on TV is talking about the demise of the Pac-12, and it's really just Johnny from, across town who's just ribbing you. But, yeah, I mean, that's become supercharged simply because of the Twitter battles. And so, yeah, the Pac-12, I'm sure, if they get a slightly higher number, even if it's $100,000, they're going to be like, see? And then on the other side of things, if it's a little bit under, then the Big 12 folks will say, see. But the thing is about it is it would have to be a significantly lower number to really matter. It doesn't matter if it's $1 million less per team. That means everything stays the exact same way that it is. Nobody's jumping for $1 million. It would have to be a significantly lower number, and that's where the puzzle is right now. That's where everybody's puzzled right now, is what exactly is that number? We were supposed to have something break last Tuesday, or, there was the potential for that. It's been quiet as a church since then, basically. So maybe that's because they're getting close to the end.
Yeah, Jim Williams actually said silence is not a bad thing.
Yeah,
right
maybe
now.
That's because they're still in a bit of a rough patch. I don't know, but we'll see the deal when the deal's presented. And yeah, there is that little bit of a turf war over, I'm sure, who will have the larger number when all is said and done. Although that still depends on is the Pac-12 expanding? Are they that's part of the puzzle? We still don't know either. But Nick Khan was good. He's the WWE CEO and formerly a creative artist agency, and he pretty much knows everybody who's anybody in all of sports and entertainment. Very well connected, very high up guy. He's a big part of the selling currently going on, or the potential sale of the WWE, as Vince McMahon's back and has been for a few months now from his suspension, I guess you could say, and now he's back to along with Khan, basically sell the company. And they could sell it to any number of folks, although it's a bit of a weird market now because, as he pointed out, you've got layoffs going on at some places that otherwise you would think would be bidders, and some places that maybe you thought would be bidders aren't maybe hitting the numbers that they thought they might hit. And so it's kind of a guessing game as to who they'll eventually be sold off to. But one thing's for sure, they're going to go for a lot of freaking money. I mean, a lot of freaking money the way this has been set up. He's a brilliant businessman. And he said in particular on the Pac-12 that they're in a tough spot, as you mentioned. He talked about, I have a lot of admiration for what the Big 12 did. Assume the SEC, which I had the good fortune of being involved in their business. We knew they would be in great shape. We believed the Big 10 would be in great shape. They are. If you look at what Brett Yormark did with the Big 12, is he looked at the hand that he was dealt, and he went and he did the best that he could with it. He got those deals done quickly. So part of what was attractive for the Pac-12 with Disney was the tonnage. There's a certain amount of tonnage for live events that multi-video programming distributors require. So assume they're not just going to lose the Big Ten football games, but all of those college basketball games as well. How do they go and make up for it? Do more with the Big 12. Very smart thinking by the Big 12. And he'd go on to say that he feels like the Pac-12 got caught off guard, which he as a businessman doesn't really like that, and said he wishes them the best. But when he saw all those deals being made a couple years ago and he saw that alliance form, he's like, this is never going to work. Alliances don't work in situations like this. So he saw that coming from a mile away because there's just too much competition going on between the conferences. And he said getting caught off guard is the worst thing that can happen in business. And he went on to say, basically that complaining is not an answer, that complaining is not a useful negotiating tool, and that he felt like the Pac-12 was complaining a bit too much about the hand that they were dealt. Maybe even without saying it, the fact that they complained about the Big 12, whoever complained, the Big 12 jumped in line. Well, that's not a winning strategy. That's why they've got a deal and you don't right now. So that's kind of what he was pointing out. He does think they're in a rough spot, but he's not in the room. That's just based off his experience, so we will see.
Well, that's good stuff.
There's no
I mean, good stuff, because that's a different set of eyes that we haven't heard, or a brain that we have not heard from. We've heard from a lot of great angles, too.
So, I mean, this is something we kind of keep saying. Yormark's brilliant thing was when he got there and somebody said, we got to get a TV deal, and it's like the Pac-12 is up next. And he's like, why are they next?
Yeah.
Because theirs is expiring. Well, so is ours a year later, so there's not like – the TV, nobody at the TV networks went to him and said, hey, whoa. Yeah, there's a protocol here. Yeah, no. So when he called up, they're like, let's do it.
The open window.
Let me give you a couple more quotes from here.
All right.
He said, I didn't love that I saw some complaining about it after by the Pac-12. Complaining is not a strategy. You better go and do something about it. We've seen this a little in golf early on with Liv. People are loyal. People are disloyal. I don't like what they're doing. You better come up with a strategy better than that, and I think the PGA has, and they'll try to implement it, but I hope the Pac-12 works out well, but I'm not seeing it at this moment in time. So that's, the PGA could have just sat and cried, but instead they realized, we better do something about it, and that's kind of what he's saying the Pac-12 needs to do, and maybe that's what they're doing. But in terms of their deal, he was just asked his opinion on what they should do in this current landscape. And he knows, because like I said, they're selling off the WWE, Absolutely. And that's going to go to Endeavor or to the Saudi Public Trust Fund or something along those lines for billions of dollars. That's a guarantee here in probably the very near future. But he said on the Pac that he would go short term and make sure you're not just taking the biggest money. You got to make sure you keep attention on the schools. So if there's a streamer that doesn't have a big audience and you go exclusive with them, you got to be careful of that, because coming out of the deal, what's the relevancy of your programs? He loves the streaming world, but on an exclusive basis for one conference or one league, it's still a big leap right now. So if they do it, it's partly for the money. What's the relevancy on that? That's tricky. So that was Nick Khan on the Pac-12.
It'd be great to get Nick on the show, and who knows, maybe
probably
we will. That might be pretty hard to do. But I have one final note from Jim